Commissioner, welcome. First, Chair Gary Gensler has said most cryptocurrencies are securities. Does the collapse of FTX and FTX coin support that, based on what you're seeing out there?
Well, I can't talk about specifics of what's of FTX, but we'll say generally that we have taken a very broad view of what securities are. The chair has, and I think that isn't backed up by any effort on our part to provide clarity around what securities are. Just making these broad statements is not sufficient. So this is really a call to action for us to work on providing regulatory clarity.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you criticized the SEC's overall handling of crypto, saying the customers aren't in the room, the competitors aren't in the room with you, and the regulator has the leverage because the regulator's about to bring an enforcement action. It's just not a good way of regulating. Now, I mean, I've seen the crypto industry over the last 2 or 3 years, frankly, drunk, it looks like, on its own valuation-driven power and speaking out of two sides of its mouth. From my point of view, saying, on the one hand, they want regulatory clarity, but on the other hand, they want to dictate the terms. They say, hey, you know, we want to do crypto lending, or we're going to call you out, regulators, or, you know, cryptocurrencies aren't securities, even though you say they are. So what is the healthy way of handling that back and forth when the industry has been acting that way?
Well, I think this moment is a learning time for lots of us, both regulators and people in the industry who may have invested in certain projects and companies and may be rethinking that. But I think having a normal process where you have the public engaging with the regulator through a rulemaking process or through a general exemptive application process, these are things that we do all the time at the SEC. And yes, we take what people say from the industry, understanding that they have they have an interest in an economic interest in what they're saying, but it's important to get the input of people who actually are involved in the industry.
Hey, Hester, good morning. It's Deirdre. Really simple question for you. Do you think the SEC has done enough to protect ordinary investors in crypto, or has the regulators' hands been too tied? Have you guys been able to do the best with what you've been able to do within your ability?
No, we haven't done the best. One-off enforcement actions years after the fact are not really the right way to go. Enforcement is certainly part of what we have to do, and I think some of that has been really important. There's a lot of fraud in the crypto space, and we've been able to go after some of that. But I think developing clear rules and helping people who are trying to do the right things figure out how to do that, that's what we really need to be doing. I mean, obviously, some of this is on the industry itself. And I don't think everyone needs to sit around wringing their hands now waiting for us to regulate. There are things that they can be doing on their own, proof of reserves for exchanges, thinking about the value of on-chain. If, you know, the whole purpose of crypto is supposed to be that you can move away from intermediaries. So doing things on-chain, we've seen even in connection with events, on-chain analytics can be helpful. So that transparency that comes with being on-chain is really useful.
Is that another way, though, of saying that the rollout of a specific regulatory framework does not need to have come any sooner than it has?
Oh, no, certainly we should have. I mean, I've been saying for the last 4 years that we should be developing a regulatory framework. My point is just that while we have a job to do that we haven't been doing, and I'm hoping this catalyzes us to do this, to undertake the actual regulatory process, there also is a lot that can be done by people in the crypto industry themselves to provide protection. And, you know, the ones that I think we're all particularly concerned about are retail customers who may get caught up in things that they don't really have the power to change.
Well, that's, yeah, certainly happening. Commissioner, thank you. SEC Commissioner Hester Peirce.